Chapter 27. One day, as I sat alone and brooding in my chamber, Therese flew in at the open window and alighted on the couch beside me. I was always pleased with the visits of a child, in whose society, if humbled, I was less eclipsed than in that of Arna, who had completed their education and matured their understanding. And as I was permitted to wander forth with him for my companion, and as I longed to revisit the spot in which I had descended into the nether world, I hastened to ask him if he were at leisure for a stroll beyond the streets of the city. His countenance seemed to me graver than usual as he replied, "I came hither on purpose to invite you forth." We soon found ourselves in the street, and had not gone far from the house when we encountered 5 or 6 young G.E., who were returning from the fields with baskets full of flowers, and chanting a song in chorus as they walked. A young G sings more often than she talks. They stopped on seeing us, accosting Therese with familiar kindness, and me with the courteous gallantry which distinguishes the G.E. in their manner towards our weaker sex. And here I may observe that, though a virgin G is so frank in her courtship to the individual she favors, there is nothing that approaches to that general breadth and loudness of manner which those young ladies of the Anglo-Saxon race, to whom the distinguished epithet of fast is accorded, exhibit towards young gentlemen whom they do not profess to love. Now, the bearing of a G.E. towards males in ordinary is very much that of high-bred men in the gallant societies of the upper world towards ladies whom they respect but do not woo. Deferential, complimentary, exquisitely polished, what we should call chivalrous. Certainly, I was a little put out by the number of civil things addressed to my amour propre, which were said to me by those courteous young G.E. In the world I came from, a man would have thought himself aggrieved, treated with irony, chaffed, if so vulgar a slang word may be allowed on the authority of the popular novelists who use it so freely, when one fair Guy complimented me on the freshness of my complexion, another on the choice of colors in my dress, a third, with a sly smile, on the conquests I had made at Afflin's entertainment. But I knew already that all such language was what the French call banal, and did but express in the female mouth below earth that sort of desire to pass for amiable with the opposite sex which, above earth, arbitrary custom and hereditary transmission demonstrate by the mouth of the male. And just as a high-bred young lady above earth, habituated to such compliments, feels that she cannot, without impropriety, return them, nor evince any great satisfaction at receiving them, so I, who learned polite manners at the house of so wealthy and dignified a minister of that nation, could but smile and try to look pretty in bashfully disclaiming the compliments showered upon me. While we were thus talking, Therese's sister, it seems, had seen us from the upper rooms of the royal palace at the entrance of the town, and, precipitating herself on her wings, alighted in the midst of the group. Singling me out, she said, though still with the inimitable deference of manner which I have called chivalrous, yet not without a certain abruptness of tone which, as addressed to the weaker sex, Sir Philip Sidney might have termed rustic, "Why do you never come to see us?" While I was deliberating on the right answer to give to this unlooked-for question, Therese said quickly and sternly, "Sister, you forget. The strangers of my sex, it is not for persons of my sex, having due regard for reputation and modesty, to lower themselves by running after the society of yours." This speech was received with evident approval by the young G.E. in general, but Therese's sister looked greatly abashed. Poor thing, and a princess too. Just at this moment, a shadow fell on the space between me and the group, and, turning round, I beheld the chief magistrate coming close upon us, with the silent and stately pace peculiar to the Vril-Ya. At the sight of his countenance, the same terror which had seized me when I first beheld it returned. On that brow, in those eyes, There was that same indefinable something which marked the being of a race fatal to our own. That strange expression of serene exemption from our common cares and passions, of conscious superior power, compassionate and inflexible as that of a judge who pronounces doom. I shivered and, inclining low, pressed the arm of my child friend and drew him onward silently. The Tur placed himself before our path, regarded me for a moment without speaking, then turned his eye quietly on his daughter's face, and, with a grave salutation to her and the other G.E., went through the midst of the group, still without a word.